Whoa, part of collecting animation cells is also explaining to new collectors a little bit of the information you've learned over the years because at one point you were that new collector who didn't know much of anything. I admire collectors and gallery owners and all these different dealers and people and hobbyists that put their minds together in order to try to help other people. And I feel that sort of spirit with Frank Svoboda. And by the way, he owns something really cool, which is a massive stockpile of SpongeBob SquarePants animation cells. We'll talk a lot about that in our interview here today. If you want to subscribe to this YouTube channel, you can do that. I enjoy doing these interviews, so if there's any other ones that you think we should cover, make sure to leave me a comment. Drop it in there too. Frank, by the way, is part of Animation Art Emporium. Do a quick Google search. You can see some of his collection on there. Animation Art Emporium. Enjoy our interview. I just want to make sure, did you start a fascination with animation art after watching the movie The Lion King? Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, yes. So I've been a collector all my life, but what happened, I've coins and stamps and stuff. So I have a history of that. And what happened is I saw Lion King and was just fascinated by the beauty of that, all the backgrounds and the characters. So I sent my wife off and said, I want something original. I always wanted something original. So sent her off. She came back with a Carousel.
Hmm.
And she told me that none of the cartoon was done by hand. And I was shocked. I did not realize that all of these years that this has happened, since what is it, 1912, I think was the first animation that happened, and it's basically dying now. I think 2012 is one of the last ones that was done this way.
Wow. So you sent your wife to look for this like she's your agent. So does your wife have a certain expertise in art? Is that why you asked her for it as opposed to you going out and looking for it?
Birthday gift.
Ah, okay, I got you. So as a gift. So she
So
comes
that
back.
got me started, and I was really disappointed that it wasn't original. So I at that time eBay was just starting up, and I went on eBay and I go, wow, here's some original art, and I bought what I could. Back then, $100 was really hard for me, so I was buying a lot of commercials, characters, Tony the Tiger, and Bugs Bunny commercial, and eventually started selling some of the items that I bought and just went back and forth and built up a collection that way.
Wow.
I realized at the beginning my eyes are much bigger than my pocketbook. There's no way I could have this sort of collection if you just buy. Unless you have a tremendous amount of money, which I'm assuming you don't either. Mm-hmm. You gotta sell something or earn the money, and I chose to sell something and just keep working my way up.
Yeah, so I'm wearing a Taco Bell shirt, which would indicate to you that I don't have a ton of money. But it's interesting with the commercial thing, because at the start you were talking about your admiration for the Disney film Lion King, and then looking at different options that are out there. I've noticed that some collectors specifically focus on one thing, others a wide variety of things. So when you first started collecting, it was basically what was in your price range was an interest for you, or did you have a different focus?
Exactly. And I grew up during the big TV series, not series, but 1959 to 79 was cartoons everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I saw so many cartoons. So I recognized everything, and I go, I like that one. I like Tony the Tiger. So I just kept building up on that. And that's my advice really for someone like you. You've got to make a decision. Do I have the money for it, or do I have to make money in this hobby in order to grow the hobby?
Yeah, yours.
I don't think most people get one or two or three items and they tell me they'll never sell it again. And I went the other way. I go, there's things that I cannot afford. So I got to buy other things that I like and I can put on the wall. And someday I can sell that, make more money, and buy the things that I can afford.
Yeah. See,
And
you're looking at it as like an investment when a lot of people don't. So
exactly.
that kind of changes it for you. What was your, what did you want to own then? So if the goal was to find pieces that over time would, gain value, what was your end goal? The pieces that you really wanted?
My end goal was Disney.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been told when I first started this, I talked to 2 or 3 collectors, and they said if you want to make money on it, you always get Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, well, why is that? And he said that the only reason people are buying these things is because it's a memory that they have,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you don't buy something that you never saw before. And what's unique about Disney is every seven years, what they do is bring out the product. They bring out a new DVD of Cinderella. Then they
Mm-hmm.
do, the VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, all
Right.
of the.
I made that mistake once purchasing animation art just because it looked cool and I didn't know what it was from. I'll never do that again. So it was a really cool looking piece. And it was, this guy, he looked super defeated and he was sitting on the edge of a bed. And I'm like, oh, I kind of like the mannerism of it. So I buy the piece and it was a full master. It had the original background and everything. So I buy the piece and I try to do some research to find this thing and I couldn't find it. And so I put it up on a forum and they said, oh, it's from that one Japanese hentai, which is Japanese pornography in cartoon
Oh,
form. So then I'm like, I can't own this. It feels like it's going to contaminate the rest of my collection. I had to sell it as fast as I could. And I thought, never again, I'm going to buy something that I don't know what it's from.
yeah.
It wasn't dirty, the scene I had. It just was innocent, but you wouldn't know unless you'd
It
seen
came
the
from
thing.
something. Yeah. I,
But
uh, I always, I sell at Comic Cons. I do two of the biggest Comic Cons in the U.S., the New York one and the San Diego one.
mhm,
And what I tell people at the Comic Cons when they're buying, some people just come there and they're no interest in making money on it, no interest in getting other ones. Just this is what they want. That's fine. But if you're going to expand on that, I forgot where I was going really with
mhm.
that. Um, I
No, I
apologize.
no, I know exactly what you mean. So when you go out there, you probably meet all kinds of different collectors, and some might not know what they want until they see it. Because, like for me, I've never been to a show or a gallery where I've seen animation cells out in the wild. I've only seen them sold online because I don't think there's any place locally where I live in St. Louis that has actually sold them. So it's different when you're like at a show and you see something and you're like, number one, you didn't even know that was a thing. Like for some people, they recognize the character of the show and then they're just entranced. They're like, oh my goodness, this was used in producing the show. And you're probably approaching people that, didn't even know it existed to begin with when you're doing shows like that.
Yeah, they're fascinated by the art because they have not seen that before.
Yeah. Can I ask you about SpongeBob? Because from what I understand and what I've heard is that you have one of the largest SpongeBob animation cell collections.
That's true. I was very lucky. This was about 12 or 13 years ago. Having collected, what I've learned is that the best thing you can do when you collect is to get original backgrounds. That's sort of the very top of collecting, and it's very, very hard to do. Well, what happened back in about 2012 or 2013, 3 things happened. The first thing happened that I read that Nickelodeon was pulling all of their material back to uh, uh, Iron Mountain. They
Mm-hmm.
store all of their stuff there, but some of it was taken out and sent to a distributor, and that distributor had all this art, and I had an opportunity to get it, and I
Mm-hmm.
grabbed it.
Awesome.
Mainly, again, from an investment standpoint, that wasn't what I was collecting at all. I was totally interested in Disney.
Mm-hmm.
But suddenly, here's what happened. They pulled all the art back. There's only 1 year of SpongeBob,
Mm-hmm.
so there's very little of it, and nobody else has it. So
Mm-hmm.
it was the ideal collectible for me.
Wow. Well, that's smart. So you do this. How much art are we talking about at that point? Are you buying everything they're selling? And like, what was the quantity that you purchased at that time?
Originally, it was almost 5,000 pieces.
Wow. Okay. So when you say 5,000 pieces, was it already curated to the characters, or are you getting a bunch of arms and stuff?
Just imagine a box with classified docs all thrown all
Yeah.
over.
That must have been cool to
Yeah,
sort through that, though. Because for
yeah,
me, I keep,
it was.
I want that experience.
And it's, I would describe it as, imagine you're the first one to walk into a candy shop and someone says, take what you want. So some of the personal pieces that I have are just great.
That's awesome. So you do this, you make this deal as it's almost an investment, as in you don't know. Well, the show doesn't have the same emotions that your 1950s and 60s cartoons did, the stuff that you grew up with. But understand that this is a unique opportunity because after the first year, they moved to digital, as you said, and there's a limited quantity. So the collectors that like this sort of thing, you understand that there's not going to be a whole lot of inventory in that sense. So you take this opportunity, and to this day, we're talking 10 years later, you're still selling some of the pieces at art shows and things like that. So it sounds like that investment really paid off well for you.
Oh, yes, it very much did. What I recommend to people that are collecting, and I realized this very late in collecting, is that picture whatever you buy now, 50 years from now, you go to an auditorium or a stadium and you hold that piece of art up. How many people recognize it?
Hmm.
Because that's going to determine its value. I have the misfortune of, when I started this, I was buying all old things other than Disney, thinking that they would do as well as Disney. But I find that people don't remember those. We're all dead. So, like, if you were a big Snuffy Smith fan, forget that.
Hmm.
How many people do you know about Snuffy Smith?
Don't I've never heard the name.
Okay, well, I guess that was a good example. Have you heard of Cinderella?
Of course, yes.
Okay. So if you hold up a Cinderella 50 years from now, you're
Hmm.
going to make a lot of money on that, because every 7, 10 years, Disney is saying Cinderella, Cinderella.
What?
And so and
Snuffy Smith.
SpongeBob was interesting for me because when I got it, it wasn't really popular yet. The kids couldn't afford it
Hmm.
because they weren't old enough. They didn't have the money. I find in collecting, right around 40 is when people start buying. They have a
Hmm.
little extra cash. The kids have gone to school. So that's when I started. You're starting earlier, I assume, and that's a very good thing. Um, but when
I'm
you're,
pushing 40 though.
huh?
I'm there. I'm there.
So,
no, that's
so
interesting. So,
anyway, so as far as me collecting, to collect, I have to buy and sell other things, but I don't do it like a gallery. There's a lot of galleries that are physical spaces, and I basically don't offer my very best stuff. I have a room of hundreds of pieces that no one sees.
mhm.
And I show other stuff, but I don't show everything I have because I'm just a private collector. So a
you
little
know,
unusual. I
I,
think
I've
I'm too
heard.
lazy to film everything and put it up on the website.
Well, you live in an area, and I've heard of other collectors that focus on one thing, that they'll go to a local museum and they'll say, "I'd love to put an exhibit together. If people want to study the animation artist SpongeBob," and then you can put your best stuff up, and people are super interested in seeing those things. Do you think maybe one day you'll put some of that on display for other
I
people to
hope
enjoy?
it's funny you mentioned that. 12 years ago in Colorado, I offered a museum the ability to do that. And they said, SpongeBob, we have no interest in
What?
SpongeBob.
What? Part of
Yeah.
pop culture. That's awesome.
The
I
other thing
can't believe
I
they'd say
thought,
no.
since I collect backgrounds, I consider them paintings, more sophisticated than just a cell. And I contacted some of the places like Sotheby's, and they consider it like, I forget the word they used, but it was very derogatory as far as animation art. So it's
Wow.
a unique little field. The people that don't deal with it think of it as bad, why this isn't like a Rembrandt or
Oh
anything.
yeah, it's beneath
Yet,
them. Wow, that's a
you won't get to see it today because it's a little hard to pull off the wall. But like I have a Lady in the Tramp with a background that's an original background, and the thing is just to me is fascinating.
mhm.
Just looking beyond the cell, looking at the background. You can take a magnifying glass and look at it, and the closer you get, it looks like a picture. It's
Mhm.
like a photograph. It's just the detail. Whereas a lot of backgrounds, as you know, are they do nothing. They got a spray can, and go over. Ren and Stimpy is a good example of
Yeah.
that. It's all of their cartoons. So
Well, that's interesting you say that. The background art does not get the credit it deserves. It really should. And I think part of the problem you run into as well is that a lot of times the background gets mixed in with other shows, other scenes. You might not know who the actual artist is that contributed to that, or if it's even connected to any individual show. Because a lot of those old cartoons, from what I understand, whoever was producing it would sometimes mix and match, and they would show up in other places, or they'd use them and save them. So the rarity of it being still connected with the same cells for like a master setup is very rare. But nonetheless, the art by itself is beautiful, and I think that it deserves more credit when all of the attention is on the characters you remember. That background art is just as fantastic, as an art form.
yes, I find one of the issues for collecting art is that people new to collecting will look at the background and focus on, oh, that's a great background. Oh, and it has a cell. And
Hmm.
they focus too much on the background rather than the cell. I always recommend look at the cell by itself.
Mhm.
Just forget what background is on it and make your decision there.
Right.
Because um, I would say 50% of the people do that. They just do not focus on the actual art, and you really want to do that, especially if you're investing.
I have had I do search and I'll see different pieces of SpongeBob art for sale. And sometimes they have this, what looks like a specially printed mat around it. Did you design that, or was that added after the fact? I mean, how did you present this art, and did you present it in a certain way that made it distinct based on your your touch, like your animation art? I don't know if you had a name like the Emporium, but
Well, I initially sort of went with the flow as far as what the previous company had done. There's Nickelodeon had used a company called Animated Animations to
mhm,
distribute their art. And they did that for about 10 years or so. And then that company went out of business
mhm,
and the art escaped. And that's the art that I got. Um, the Once it escaped, Nickelodeon could no longer get it back.
hmm,
And in I get explaining stuff so much I forget what the original question was. So the mats they
yeah,
used to in animation had an orange mat that they
right,
put on every item. A couple of things that helped me out because they put these mats on. They couldn't put the mat on a pan background,
hmm,
so the pan background stayed in the building that eventually was closed up when these guys went under.
mhm,
And so the pan backgrounds that were never offered to you and I as a customer, I managed to get
awesome.
because they couldn't do anything with them.
That's
So
awesome.
the I took that idea with the mat that you mentioned, and then I created my own mat and sold the cells and drawings for 8 or 9 years.
Mhm.
Then I decided I'd come up with a better method. I'll show you here on a Disney piece. So I tried to do it more like, tell me if you can see that okay.
Right.
So
Hmm.
this is what I've done is tried to take more like what comic books do,
Right.
where they
Yeah.
here and mention what it is. What's different than a comic book is you could have a Superman rated one through 10.
Hmm.
These things you can't do it because everyone is one of a kind. There
Right.
are never two of the same thing. They're always slightly different.
Yeah, and the label up top looks like what you would see, of course, with comics or a trading card where they would grade it. And then that label is something you created to go with the piece.
Correct. Correct. I create a label so that they know what it is. Then I have a little hologram sticker that I bought that's numbered so I can identify it so that I know that this was one that I sold. So as long as they
Ah,
keep that, we know who they bought it from. And of course, the nice thing is when people buy it, it's all protected. They don't have to worry about it getting, torn or anything.
right.
Whereas I found that when you put it in the mats, you had to tape it to the mats.
Hmm.
And if you tape it to the mats, chances are when the person takes it off, the tape might accidentally tear the paper. Won't
Exactly.
hurt the cell, but drawings is a big issue.
Wow. Okay. So that is really cool. And that's just looks like an oversized. Is it made of plastic, like the top loading the card protectors? Is that what that
Exactly.
is essentially?
Exactly.
And then,
And then they come in different sizes. I usually use 11 by 14s if
mhm.
people are out there wondering what they should get for their own collection. 11 by 14 do almost all normal stuff. There's very little that are, quote, 16 field, which are 16-inch.
And
Most
that
are
almost,
12-inch.
yeah, the label almost works as a certificate authenticity as a way since it's
That's
numbered
right.
and you can track it, and that helps. But you would do that with drawings. I don't know. Could you do that with cells, or is that something too dangerous to put a cell in?
No, no, no.
Is it
I don't.
acid free? It doesn't.
I do it all the time. Debbie, can you hand me one of those cells? One of the
Yes.
Disney's, one of the SpongeBob cells.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
would
I
because
do it on all of them.
uh-huh. Let's take a look because I think the
Yeah,
concern would be
this is
uh
like this would be an example.
oh, that is cool. So there's the cells don't stick to that or anything. Is the plastic that's used for the container acid free?
Yes.
Oh, then that's why. Yeah, that's why that's perfect.
Yeah.
Is that
It,
an
it
original
works.
background with it? I can see the paint on the back side of it. That's an original background.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hold that back up again. I want to take a closer look if that's all right. Oh, that is so cool. Oh man.
So let me throw some art at people because I know I'm
Yeah.
probably 10 minutes of seeing me, they probably already turned out. But what I
So
want to do, I feel like, and maybe sometime later you'll invite me back, but I think your cell talks would be good doing a lot of education for
mhm.
animation because I feel that it took me 20 some years to learn things, and if I can give some of that back for people that are just starting it now, there's a lot of knowledge that you probably have not learned, but it would be good for you to know. Like for instance, I think I heard you talking to some of the other people about Disney punch holes.
Yeah,
Are
right.
you familiar? Do you know all about those?
No, I am not someone that could spot something that's
Okay,
not authentic,
so
but I
let's so
understand there's certain types of paper they use for, and that's
yeah.
how
So
some people spot inauthentic
tell
ones.
me if this is good. So what I'm going to do is run you through some different Disney pieces and talk about each piece. I'm going to take you from the 30s to the 70s. Does that
Uh-huh.
work for you? Or
Yes, but let me point out something before you do this,
okay,
because I found that with some collectors that are in the know, they're hesitant to share information like this because they're afraid the ones that are creating the forgeries would use that information and then make it harder to spot a forgery. Have you ever had that concern?
well, yes, but mainly from the standpoint that what a person will do was they'll find a drawing that basically has next to nothing on it. Like
Uh,
maybe they just drew a little hand, and they'll erase it and they'll put it. Then they'll take that page and draw over it. But
interesting.
you'll
Yeah.
find that most of the people still doing this, they don't. What they'll do is they'll take a piece of paper and cut out the punch holes
Hmm.
so you can't see the punch holes. And then they'll just sell you Mickey Mouse on a piece of paper, and you can't tell whether it's from
Yeah.
30s or 40s or 50s, other than what the character looks like.
Hmm.
Um,
I would like
there's
to
also,
learn. I just wanted to bring that up first because I understand some people are very hesitant because they're afraid that it would make their job harder trying to authenticate some art if everyone knew all the tricks. But
I,
yeah,
I certainly understand that. I guess I'm at the point I want everybody to know what to look for. Then
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if they cheated because there's other things I can show you that will. It's really pretty hard to do a 1930 drawing and cheat at it. The exception appears to be the very first Mickey Mouse drawings. The very first Mickey Mouse drawings were done by Ub Iwerks, and he was a very moderate drawer, but he was fast. He was very fast. So if you see any of the things from Steamboat Willie, it looks like a very amateur type of drawing. Well, most people can duplicate that. So all they got to do is find the right paper, like you're saying, and copy the darn thing. The thing is that the average drawing, it's not worth it for them. They're not going to do it to sell a drawing for $200, going out to get a special piece of paper that's 5-punch. And I'll show you some of the things.
Let's take a look.
And there's two things I'm going to go with that I wanted to show you as we go along to give you the history of animation. So here I have, let's see if that's pretty good. So this is sort of fun. This was about 1933, 1944. All the Disney drawings before 1935 were done with the 2-punch holes.
Right, the bottom side, rarely on the top.
The backgrounds could be top. The device that held these things could hold it at the bottom or the top. And I've seen it both ways. So you can't rule it out if it's at the top. Now, one of the reasons I kept this was that this was back in the day when all the drawings were done. Make sure I've got this right. Okay. They're drawn like they're circles. They described it as balls with rubber hoses coming out from the body. And that was state of the art in about 1934.
What's the writing in the bottom of that corner?
A guy came by called Freddie Moore, who's very famous, who evidently when he first started working at Disney, the other animators came to him because he was just a natural drawer. So this is about 1938, I believe. So only about 4 years later. And this is where first of all, you can see that it's after 1935. They went to a 5-punch. And the 5-punch is from 1935 to about right around 1950. I've seen it 48 to 51 as far as the 5-punch. So if you notice here, they're sort of totally different than the related. Notice how the bodies are squishing and they no longer are like a full size with just rubbery legs. And this was Freddie Moore. He was the first one to have animation where the body's stretched. They go, if you jump up, they go bigger and smaller, but not with just the ball going up with the legs dangling around. So that's sort of fun. Then this shows you how they've advanced. This was before I show you this, hold on. I was going to bring a flashlight down and I didn't, but I have my phone here. Tell me if you can see this. Can you see anything?
Yeah, I see my reflection off of the screen is what I see on that. Let's see.
Let me try one more time. Can you see where the phone is behind that?
Right. Well, the light went off on it.
Oh, okay. Here's a flashlight. Good. Thank you, Dan. I have no idea whether you're not going to be able to see that. Maybe there. You probably can't see that. But anyway, right here, if you shine a light to it, it has a watermark. All Disney drawings that were done for animation have watermarks. So if you, anywhere from about 1950-ish, 55, and I take it back, say 1950 and earlier, you can see if it's actually Disney paper by looking at the watermark.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So again, what they do is if you were trying to cheat, you leave that off. You would not have that. They cut it here and then these would be cut off. So you'd see a drawing, but you'd have no way of identifying if the paper is right, the holes are right, or the watermark was in there. So, so this one, I just thought I love this one, and so I always like to show it. This was by Hank Porter, and this is what they did during the war. During the war, they would design characters for the noses of planes and for boats, and everybody doing the war wanted a Disney emblem. So this is one of the ones they created during the 40s. But again, I wanted to show you how animation had, you know, how great this looks compared to the one of the dangling legs, the hose leg one.
That is cool. Going back to the watermark, what would be the purpose of having a watermark on the paper for Disney? Do you know why they decided to include that?
I don't know at all, because I don't think they were worried that anyone was going to be stealing it.
And for the most part, you wouldn't see the drawings.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know, that's not what is presented on screen. Yeah, that's interesting.
No, it's just the other thing I should have mentioned here with the one, sorry, as I'm looking down, the interesting thing that I found out, and I wouldn't have known until I got these, the artwork that is done by the people that are doing the advertising or the non-animation cell stuff, the paper isn't marked. So when it's marked, it means it was put under camera and filmed, whereas if it's not, they were doing things like this, or maybe making a picture for a magazine or something like that. They wouldn't use that paper. So
interesting.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you one other one, just again. Part of collecting is being more observant than normal on art. Like when you see this, okay, I got, this was one of the first ones I got, and I was pretty darn excited when I got it. So first thing we know is it's before 1935 or before, because of the two dots. I can see that it has the paper mark here. It really is not, I don't imagine you recognize that character. Do you?
Not really.
Okay. 1933 or 34, King Neptune. And it was a story about this pirate ship that gathered up all the mermaids from the ocean and was ravaging them, and all the sea creatures came up and fought off the pirates. Well, what was interesting about this is that if you go and watch the movie or the cartoon, this is close, but it's not exactly the same. And what I noticed, the first thing was that when I bought it, I go, well, hold it. He doesn't have a beard. The original one had a beard. Well, hold it. He has not only it's probably hard to see on this, but he has not only the little eye patch, but he has a very distinct eyebrow being drawn in. And he has a little sailor's tattoo there. So what does that all mean? Well, this was drawn by Ben Sharpstein. It wasn't numbered, so it was actually a gag photo. And this is of Walt Disney. They put Walt Disney as the captain of the ship. And like I say, everything looks the same except right when you get around here in the arm. So it's, and you know, that made this being worth maybe $100 to maybe worth $1,000 just by picking up on some little thing. So that's one thing you should do is collecting. The other thing,
when you showed me that, this is what I think most collectors would think. It doesn't match the screen. This is probably a knockoff. Like that makes it seems inauthentic in that case. But when you dig a little bit deeper, you realize that there was a different purpose for it, and that's when you found the other history to it.
Yeah. The other hard thing with, and I had this problem, is that just because you don't see it on the movie doesn't mean it wasn't there. They cut a lot of stuff out, and it's still production art.
Hmm.
but it's you can't see it. Like I have SpongeBob. I have one background that was not used out of
Hmm.
the 1,500 backgrounds that I got. Only one of them wasn't being used.
1,500 backgrounds.
Yeah.
It's like a gold mine of backgrounds. Man.
So let me tell you some other things, and then the other thing back on SpongeBob. One thing that people can do, you could do with your cell, if you get something that is what you consider very valuable, how can you make it more valuable? Well, in my case, what I do is I can get a cell and I say, wow, if I can find an original background that's from that movie, I can put it behind it and make it more valuable. What a lot of people can do with all these conventions is what I did with a SpongeBob. So what I did with a SpongeBob was I took a basic cell that I bought, and then I managed to get all the autographs of all the people. Okay, and nothing,
Hmm.
just this, which the average guy could do. That might add like this might just going and doing this might add $600, $800 to the value of the thing in here, just by you being able to do that.
That's cool. And of course, all the autographs that are on there. Did the artists, the voice actors, the ones that were autographing that, know about animation cells? Did they make any comments about them?
It surprises me. The only comment I got is they never see him, and how did I get so many? I I'm really I tell the story a lot. I when I first met the voice actors, I went to a Comic Con in where was it? Somewhere I think it was Arizona, and all three actors were there, and I wanted to meet them so bad, really so bad, that I set up a photo op. And then they told me, well, you get about 10 seconds with them to talk, and then they usher you out. So I was all disappointed with that. And 2 hours later, Roger, who's the voice of Squidward, came over to my booth. And an hour after that, all the main rep came over and said, "Can you stay after hours?" They came and bought a ton of stuff from me,
Oh,
and I
wow.
was in shock. I had no idea that the voice of SpongeBob could not walk to somewhere in Nickelodeon and get a pile of animation cells, but he could not.
Wow. Man.
Yeah, it gives you an idea that they're just these things are just totally they're unrelated to it. They do their thing. Animation is a totally different department. Never do the two cross paths.
Oh, yeah. And well, actors on shows are like that too. If they rap on a show, Rain is it, oh boy, the guy that played Dwight on The Office. Is it Rain? Not Wilson, but Rain.
Wilson.
Is it Wilson? But either way, he was talking about their last episode they filmed for The Office, and he said that they had special security to make sure the actors didn't swipe a prop to take as a keepsake. And I
Wow.
thought, man, these actors, why would you try to stop them from grabbing a little memorabilia from the show they made so magical? You think that it would be offered up to them as a gift, but it's got to be like that too. When you're a professional, you're being paid for your voice work. You
Yeah.
probably aren't even close to where the cells are being stored or saved, but you think you'd be able to request those things and get one without any
If you're a big
hesitancy.
enough actor, you can do it. I had someone tell me that Mel Gibson uh, gave gave somebody one of the flags from that film he did, where he was the Patriot. I forget
Oh
the
yeah,
title.
yeah.
And somebody got the little pinky ring from Austin Powers from the Gold member film.
Yeah.
They gave it. So it happens, but they're starting to realize that, well, hey, we used to give this stuff away. Now we can just sell it. They make, Star Trek, anything Star Trek goes for a gazillion
Oh,
bucks.
sure, of course. Well, the fandom through all those different generations. So you're dabbling into a whole nother thing when it comes to memorabilia, set and screen used pieces for movies and television. Do you collect any of that stuff, or do you mostly stay to production
A
art?
little bit. I have about 3 or 4 other items. Like you, it's very hard to get if you're not in an area where it is. I mean, I'm in Colorado. There's nothing going, there's no animation shops here. I used to live in San Diego and I could drive up in LA and I did get some things by driving up and getting it. But, for most of us, there's not really a good opportunity to find deals on this stuff. You can go to a gallery and buy it if you've got a lot of money.
Hmm.
The one thing that you have, I assume, that I had is that I don't make a lot of money, but I do have a fair amount of free time
Hmm.
when I come home that I can devote 1 or 2 hours to searching for the next gem. And I search, and obviously anything I tell you will hurt me, but what you want to do is look where nobody else is looking. You don't
Hmm.
want to look on just eBay. You want to look to see if there's a little ma and pa auction house in South Carolina where a family just turned in their 8 pieces that they got in the 40s from Disney.
Right.
And because it's South Carolina and it was held on a Thursday, there's only 6 people buying there. You have no competition and you get it.
Yeah.
Uh,
I know what you mean.
that's the advantage. That's the advantage you can have. Um, Boy, I wish I'd had a lot of money to begin with, because I in the beginning I buy for every 50 pieces I like, I can buy one.
Let
You
me
know,
ask you this important question. What does your wife think about all this?
she's good now. It was horrible to begin with.
I
From the
know.
day one, it
Well,
was, when are you gonna sell this darn stuff? You keep buying all this darn stuff. When are you gonna sell it? So my sister chips in. You're getting old. You better sell it now. I'm there. She even argues that if you die, I'm not going to know what it is. So can you mark everything? And I'm looking 4,000 pieces, and I got to, before I die, I got to mark the
oh
cost.
man, you still have a
It's not worth
lot.
it to me. You figure it out.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
I love it. As you can see, I love talking about it. It's rare. It's a rare hobby. It really
Mhm.
is a rare hobby. I wish it took over like comic books, because
Hmm.
like I look at like why I went into animation and would suggest that someone go into animation rather than comic books or cards is that you can put it on the wall. It is a painting. It is a beautiful thing to look at that you can look at for 10, 20 years. And then the day comes, you go, I want to put something new up there. You sell the one you had, but you had 20 years of looking at that thing,
Mhm.
whereas if it's a baseball card or, once every couple of months, I pull it out of the drawer and stare at it. I'm not allowed to open it up and look at it. The other thing I think amazes me is rarity of things, like what's going on with a Superman comic book. So 200, I've looked it up, and best I can tell, 250,000 first day issues of Superman were created back in 1938. Less than 10 or 20 exist today. The best
Mhm.
one sells for over $1 million.
Right. Yeah.
Animation art, there aren't 250,000 that started. There's only one.
Of
But
that
people haven't
particular. Yeah.
picked up on that yet. And then you
Yeah.
do a background, because you get people that argue, well, I want the drawings, the actual work of the artist, and the cell is the paint lady who's just filling in between the lines. And I felt why also went into the background is that not only it tells you the whole picture of what you saw. It's the Fred Flintstone wouldn't be the same if you didn't have all that background of the rocks and the stone homes and stuff like that. So I love the fact that the background ties the cell together to the memory that you have.
Right. Wow. You have some pieces behind you here. Where are these some of your favorite pieces that you put up on the wall, or do you
Well,
normally?
yes, everything in this room. I have 4 walls here, and I have about 100 pieces
Yeah.
uh, in this room. The wall that's that way is my favorite, but I couldn't figure out a way. I can I can swirl at the last moment if you want. That's my best I have over in that direction. These are probably the second. The
Hmm.
wall over there are drawings, and then I have another wall here thing. But again, real quick, see if you can see them a little better.
Yeah, I can see the Donald Duck. Is there a Peter Pan there?
Yeah, this is a Peter Pan. Now this is on a print background. I haven't found a background for him yet. This is a Lady and the Tramp, and I actually bought an original background to go with it.
See, I
So
can't see
that's
that one. It's out of frame. The one, the top
okay.
level
Oh, I'm
there.
sorry. This one, can you see this one?
Kind of, but there's a glare. The light is glaring off of it.
No. Tinkerbell. Anyway, sorry.
Yes.
Well, Mickey Mouse from the opening of Mickey's Club. Back here is the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland on the
Oh,
back
cool.
from Mr. Toad, and Donald on the original background, and the two chipmunks on original background.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. The Chipmunks, did you see the Disney Plus movie that came out with the Rescue Rangers just
No,
recently?
no.
So it came out a couple of months ago, and it's kind of Who Framed Roger Rabbit like, where there's real people living in the world with the cartoon characters. And I watched the movie, and they have all the old school animation styles based on the different characters, and they try to stay true to the old animation style. It made me want to immediately go buy everything I saw on screen. It was like me watching Saturday morning cartoons again, and then a commercial came on, and the commercial said, "Go buy this toy," and I wanted to go buy the toy. That's the entire movie for me, is wanting to go buy these characters.
Disney, and it's Disney, so you're in good shape.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna 7 years from now, they'll bring that character back out to all the new kids that have been born and get them addicted to Disney.
Yeah. Addictions to Disney is a real thing. Um, have you ever not been able to find a character you've searched for? Is there anything out there that you haven't been able to find?
Oh, yes, I have no problem finding it. I have problems paying for it. It's the I think I found every character that I've ever wanted. I haven't been able to buy all of them. Like I've always wanted the Cheshire Cat,
Mm.
and that's currently about $4,000 or $5,000 that those go for. And it doesn't have a background, so I don't like to spend 4 or 5 thousand just on a cell.
Mhm.
I like to, I would rather put that into a background or something.
You ever tried
So
it a trade? You offer up a trade for pieces?
I don't know anybody that trades. That's the problem. Maybe they'll watch this and want to trade. It really is a
Hear that?
lonely profession here. Other than you and me, there's only 8 other people out there.
Oh man, I know what you mean. And that's why I started the video series, because
Yeah,
my wife said, "Stop talking to me about this. I don't want to hear about it anymore." So I need to find people on the internet that also share the same enjoyment from this hobby to talk to and learn from. Thanks to the internet, things like this, I'm sure this hobby probably breathed a little new life into it, because from what I understand, you'd be able to go into a Disney store or Warner Brothers store and find animation cells. Now you really can't do that. And if it wasn't for connections like this, then what would have happened? There's not new inventory being pumped out from these studios. So this is really
exactly.
how it stays alive.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Yeah, the other thing that amazed me is like I consider you, after talking to you, you really are pretty much a collector. It shocks me. I'm not going to mention names, but the various galleries. There's one gallery. I asked him what's his favorite piece, and he says he really doesn't have any. That he's really doesn't isn't into it. And then I asked another gallery. He says none of us are allowed to own any animation art, yet they sell and repair it.
I don't get
I
it.
guess
Well, I don't know. Maybe they look at it like drug dealers look at the product they're selling. They know it's better not to try it.
there you go. I'm glad you said that rather than me.
But if for me and my sake, it makes it so much more fun to me, even if you're going to sell something. I've only done this once, but I hope to do it more in the future. As you buy a lot, and much like you did with SpongeBob, you hold back the ones you like, and then you sell some with the intention of making your money back, but at least you got the ones you held back for. And
Exactly.
then it was almost like all the work and effort you put into it. Then my wife can't come to me and say, hey, you spent all this money on animation cells. I'll say, no, actually, it's a net zero. I mean, I sold
Yeah,
enough where it
exactly.
worked out in the end.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I had to do with my wife on
Well,
that, because especially at the beginning, I had 20, 30 cells before I started selling it. And there's a lot of cool things you can do even now. Remember that you look everywhere where someone else isn't looking. You also see, is there some way I can present this either in a better place, or did he sell it without a background, and can I make a matching background that would show the scene? What can you do to make that piece more special? And I
yeah.
do that a lot. Of course, I do it when I bought the cell collection. I didn't sell any of the cells just by themselves. I printed up backgrounds from the prints from the backgrounds that I had. And
Mm-hmm.
that was another thing that I was so excited about the collection was, imagine if I got all those cells and no backgrounds. What do you do?
Yeah.
How do you sell them? It's very hard to go on to oh God, go on to a website or a DVD and capture really a good image for a background that doesn't have a figure in it that you don't then have to erase. So
Yeah.
it's very hard to do that. But if you get all the backgrounds with it, now every cell you have a choice of, maybe 100 backgrounds that go with it.
Yeah. And
So
you're
then you get
curating it,
decision. I'm sorry.
you're the one curating it. So you can use your eye
Yes,
to decide
I
what looks
am.
best.
I think of myself, if you're familiar with the Art Corner pieces from Disney back in 1955 to about 1960 something, they used to sell all the animation cells in a little small mat for about $3 to $4.
Wow.
And they would, the person doing it, I don't think had watched a single cartoon, because they would have oddball characters that had no relationship in the same thing. Like it,
Mm-hmm.
so it might be Wart from Sword in the Stone talking to Ludwig von Drake in the picture. You go, wow, we're all over the place.
Oh man, that
So
almost seems like a bonus because now you're getting two different shows and together in one. It's like,
well,
uh,
people are purists, though. They want both things to be the same.
well, I mean, then you can separate them, of course, and then it's almost like you have from two different, and it's almost like double the value in a situation like that. I would think.
And I know that you don't collect these, because they when they sold these in all years, the cells attached to the background.
Yep.
They're probably
Mm.
the absolute worst. You have to repaint anything that you get from there. It's very rare not to, because it's stuck right to the paper.
Yeah, there's all kinds of techniques I've looked up online, but really there's nothing. Yeah, there's people have tried all kinds of different methods to take the paper off the back of the cell. Let me tell you some of the more popular ones I've heard, and you can tell me what you think of these methods. One method is the pencil method, where essentially you take the cell and you put the paper face up, and then you essentially slide a pencil to create a little bit of tension between the cell and the paper. And then slowly over time, the hope is that it starts to separate more natural that way. So you're not forcing it. And then a little bit at a time, you just keep moving the pencil. So that little bit of tension of the pencil is enough to try to pull that paint away from the paper. Have you ever tried something like that?
And it's very scary if it's $1,000 cell
Yeah.
and you're doing it.
Yes, it
And
is. I bet.
what I find is that you do it and you think you're going great, and then the one little spot that's smaller than a BB decided it was going to stick. So when you pull it off, it's perfect except for one little spot,
Mm-hmm.
which means you got to repaint it anyway. So, or you
Okay.
put it back on the background. People that sell a lot, they do. I have a painter that I can send it to repair art, because
Oh, good.
occasionally you get something very, very rare, something from Fantasia or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that's just really valuable. but it's the age has hurt it.
Right.
Dumbo, if you're familiar with Dumbo, they
Hmm.
didn't use good paints during World War II. Pretty much 99% of every Dumbo that you see that looks good has been repainted.
Gotcha. Here's another method I've heard. Tell me if
Okay.
you've heard of or tried this one. Some
I've
people
tried
say
pretty much everything.
some people say this is what they do. They say that the paints are not water solvent, so they take a basically a misting bottle to disintegrate the paper on the back. And they say that if they do it careful enough, it'll basically you're destroying the paper, but you're not doing it enough to destroy the cell. Have you ever tried something like that?
I've heard it described as that the if the paper stuck, you wet the paper ever so slightly, and
That's
then you
something.
pile it. You try to peel it off grain. Like if the cell here is you're going parallel to the paper.
Mm,
Um, the problem is the first statement you said. A lot of them are watercolor.
mm,
They're not acrylic. So the watercolor, the minute the water hits
hits
it,
it.
it's a mess. Lady and the Tramp is one of the worst. I've had it where they've had a little spot, maybe the size of, I don't know, half the size of a dime that's on a cell that needs repair. And I thought, well, I'll just take some of the other paint that's around it and wet it a little bit and
Yeah.
smooth it in. And you just can't do it. You just, it gets thinner.
Yep.
So you brought it over. Only recently is like an acrylic, like SpongeBob is like an acrylic paint. So you could wipe the paint with a wet cloth, and if you did it long enough, you could do some damage. But basically, one time isn't going to hurt anything.
Wow. Here's
Whereas
an
you do that with an older Disney or something before 1950, you're in big trouble.
okay. Here's another method I've heard. They use
Where do you go to hear all these?
oh, there's all kinds of crazy things on the internet. So the one I've heard also is that they'll basically get into a small room like a bathroom and they'll put a humidifier, basically a mister humidifier to make it as humid as possible in that room. So the idea is if you get a lot of humidity over time, that paper will peel right off of it. So as opposed to spraying it, you just
I
get it
haven't
super
tried
humid.
that. I have heard that. That seems like one of the best. If you can just basically, I almost think of it. Maybe you could have something like not only is moist, but something's on the paper like two not what do you call it, clothes hanger clips
Hmm.
that puts a little weight on it. So you just leave it for a week and slowly the weight
Like
pulls
your
it down.
old school film.
I just I've done it. I find that some you can do and some you just can't. I've taken things back in the 30 where it's missing a little bit of color, and I'll just smooth it right out, and it's fine. And then I'll take another one, like you take a Dumbo. There's no way in heck you can do anything with it. So
And
you
yeah,
just you have to take. I would say just always assume you can't fix it.
so
Okay,
does it
it's
feel
sad.
like you're diffusing a bomb? Like are you that nervous when you're working on a piece like that, an old Disney piece?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's $1,000, so I mean, it's sort of like putting down 1,000 on that roulette table on picking a number, and maybe you'll hit it.
Well, hopefully it's
I
not worth
don't.
zero if
I
you
don't.
mess it up.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing. I should. Debbie says part of the reason she thinks I got into animation, it's a lot like gambling. You're going out there and you're looking, and there's something that I think that's a really good price. I think I could sell it. Well, you don't know if you can, but you think you can, and you can't. You spend your money on it, and then you try to sell it, and it gives you the same feeling as gambling. I can't tell you how good I feel when I buy something and make double or triple what I paid for it.
I, you know,
Um,
I- I'm still waiting. Like to me, it doesn't feel like gambling, but it feels like if you find a good deal on something, when you find something at a garage sale and you're so happy you found this thing at a garage sale. And I still hold my hope out that one day I'll accidentally come across at a Goodwill or a garage sale, an animation cell, and I'll find a beautiful treasure out there that someone's just trying to get rid of and they don't know what they have. And I'm still waiting for that day that hasn't happened.
You will. You will.
Yeah.
I mean, but you got to keep your eyes open,
Right.
and you got to know what is the treasure. You
Mhm.
know, some people will go and see. I always try to reference something that no one would know. Pittsburgh pups. Have you ever seen a Pittsburgh
I'm
pups
gonna
cartoon?
look it up right now.
Okay. So I had a competitor that's selling that, and I'm going, that's got to be a hard sell, you know?
Pittsburgh pups. I don't see anything coming up right
Maybe it's
away.
Pittsburgh dogs. I never watched it, but what it was I know it was Pittsburgh. Anyway,
Eh,
sure.
boy.
Catch me
Well,
lying again.
oh, hold on. Maybe it's Pittsburgh Dogs. Let's see. Well,
Go
either way,
cartoon Pittsburgh dogs.
okay. Okay. Let's see. Because when I'm looking up on a Google image search,
Oh,
something very surprising came up, which was what looked like someone that was, I don't know how to put it, but it was dirty. Let me put it that way.
well, no, that wasn't the gist. If I've got the name slightly wrong, the gist of it is that there's plenty of cartoons out there that are recent that you better not be collecting and hanging your hopes on. Earthworm Jim.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
have a
I see that
lot
pop up
of
once in a
those.
while.
What's amazing, somebody that's well known but doesn't do well at all, I guess because there's so much of it, is Pink Panther. You
Hmm.
think most people know who that character is, but it's one of the most unpopular. Another one that was sort of interesting, Teenage Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Uh, that used to be the laugh of the industry because they were sold at Toys R Us,
Right.
and nobody bought them. They were 10, $12 for the first 20 years of my collecting. I'd see those for 10 or $15. Now a movie came out showing the guys, so now people know it. So now instead of being $15, they pay 50, 70, $100 for the things. And
All right.
again, goes back to the, do you recognize the character at all?
Well, I have one right here, and just one of them that I leave out over here. It's one of the scenes from season 2 when they're about to fight, but they sold them in a mat, and they had the special
Yeah.
bag and the sticker and everything. So I looked up online if people remove them from the mat, and they said don't do it. The company that put this together glued the cell to the mat so it wouldn't slide.
I wonder if they heard that from you another time or something. Yeah, that they actually glued the mat to the cell.
Well, I was looking online where there was a forum and someone was talking about their purchase of this, and then they were documenting them trying to remove it, and they said, "Don't do it; it's a mess. So leave it in. Don't touch it." So I haven't attempted it myself. All the things you learn. It's a cool looking piece.
So tell me, what is if you could only get one cell and you could pay whatever you want, what is that cartoon? What is the thing that's the
Oh yeah. I would like to get more Simpson cells, and those have been incredibly. I don't want to say overpriced, but man, people have high expectations for them right now.
Yes.
That's probably the nice way to put it. So I like side characters more than main characters in cartoons. So if I'm watching a show, I love the villains. If there's a good villain piece, or like in the case of The Simpsons, the side characters to me are so awesome. Those are the pieces I gravitate towards.
Okay.
I only have
Those
one Simpson cell.
just to let you, they won't make you the most money. Just to let you know, they make you happy in the heart.
That's what I
But
look for. That yeah.
60 years from now, if you show the villain to a Simpson, maybe because they're yellow, you would have a chance. But normally, like I'll give you with SpongeBob, the worst selling pieces that I have are Sandy. I will sell 50 SpongeBobs to one Sandy.
So Sandy is the squirrel in the.
Yeah.
See, that's the type of cell I would look specifically for as a good Sandy. So I'm the opposite. I'm the one that looks for that stuff.
Well, go to my website then real quick.
Yeah.
No,
well, right now.
I'm just going with the numbers,
Yeah.
And the basically, if you collect Cinderella, 90% of the people would get Cinderella rather than the mice.
Hmm.
I'm with you. I like some of the side characters, but I've learned that they're not as popular.
Yeah, that's
For
interesting.
instance, Gary, I found it interesting. This entire collection of 5,000 pieces we got all together between cels and drawings and backgrounds, and out of that, there were only maybe 30 Garys and maybe
Interesting.
10 Mrs. Puffs.
So Gary is the squirrel? No, 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 the snail.
He's the snail.
Snail, yeah. And the
Yeah.
Puff character. And by the way, SpongeBob has some amazing memes online. Have you ever looked at something that's trending on social media, like a SpongeBob meme, to see if you can match that with the original cell?
Yeah, I have a couple of those.
That
The
probably
biggest
increases the
issue
value. Yeah.
is that in 20 years of SpongeBob, most of the memes are from later years, not the first year. So you only have the first year of characters. So I have the primitive SpongeBob. I'll grab
Yeah.
that. I can grab that. Do you remember
And
the primitive SpongeBob?
that is a huge meme where he's got the loincloth and he looks like
Yeah,
confused.
yeah,
Yes, you have that.
yeah, yeah.
That's a
Now, what's
classic.
interesting is that I've just recently learned this. Most of the world have it wrong.
Yeah.
They call him Sponge Gar. Sponge Gar looks very close to it,
Yeah.
but Sponge Gar wasn't until the third year.
Yeah.
This is actually, he's the primitive SpongeBob. He's not
Yeah.
actually Sponge Gar. Let me get it. It's right.
Okay. And I was going to load up a picture. There is a cell setup I'm actually watching on eBay right now, and I'll show it to you when you come back. Let me bring it up to the camera here first. I've been watching these two. Now,
Yeah,
I've been watching this one because what a great episode and perfect side characters.
yeah, they're ready to do their hand butt.
Oh, it was awesome. That's the type of stuff I like the most. Those type of things.
I have one, only once out of 5,000 cells. There was only one cell of those two guys when they were young. You remember
Oh,
when they watched the TV and they saw the images on the TV?
sure. Yeah.
The cell of that. Only
That's so
one.
cool.
Never seen it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Is this a panoramic?
yeah.
Oh, look at that. Oh, man. That's amazing, too, considering were they moving, walking? Is that why it was panoramic?
Yeah, yeah. In other words, they would have, like, let's say this scene would have been they were somewhere, but then they panned to the left or right to
Mhm.
show where they were. They were
Right.
in the forest. This one, you'll notice, wasn't done where they were walking across because they have all the other little items that would have messed that up. So this was really pretty much in one spot, and they just wanted to show.
Yeah. Well, real
This
quick,
is
hold.
interesting. That's where the house landed. For
Uh-huh.
his little shack thing.
Hold that back up if you could. Can I look at that a little bit? Okay.
Sure.
So is this cell a panoramic cell, or are those regular size
No.
cells?
Um, no, they're not. I have some, but I didn't have for that. This one I didn't. I didn't have the
That is
panoramic.
cool. I had some panoramic Masters of the Universe, the He-Man stuff, which were really cool, but I ended up selling them because I found it's such a hassle to store long cells. It's like I just didn't have the ability to like dedicate that much space on
That's
the
fine.
shelf and everything for it.
And it costs a fortune unless you frame them yourself. Framing is, that would have been $200 worth of acrylic plastic, and the frame would have been another couple of hundred. And
Mhm.
you can imagine the last thing an animator or a collector wants to do is put all their money in the frames.
You know what I thought? Let me throw this idea by you because I'm a cheap guy. As again, pointing back to the Taco Bell shirt.
Really.
So I thought,
Turn
okay,
around, if it holes in the back, I want to see if it's really cheap.
what's in the back? Holes in the back.
Okay, there we go.
Empty bag, no holes. But what you will find, I do have a lot of chlorine stained shirts because I run back out and have to put the chlorine in the pool, and I don't think to change my shirt for it. But then I'm not going to get a new shirt, so I'm fine with the chlorine blotches on it. Here's an idea that I came up with to self put together framing. I want you to tell me why this would be a bad idea, or maybe it's a genius idea. You go down to Home Depot, they sell basically for sliding glass doors UV protection film that is meant to try to block off some of the UV light that's coming in outside, make it so you can cool your house down a little bit. I thought, why don't you buy a big strip of those? And essentially, you can buy cheaper frames and then use that film as a way to block the UV light coming in. And then essentially, you're cutting this film to match the frame you have. And then you're doing it so much cheaper than buying the UV protected acrylic.
Yeah, the only thing I have not tried that. The only concern I would have that would be perfect unless it somehow bubbles or peels. I think of all the cars that you see with that stuff in the back, and
Yeah.
It doesn't lay flat. So
Well,
I worry about that. The other thing to mention is that if you go to Home Depot, next to where they had that, they have the acrylic plastic. And I just buy the acrylic plastic there. I don't worry about the UV so much because I'm not where it's a lot of sun.
Right.
It's down in my basement right now. But I like the idea that I don't have glass. I do not like to have glass because if it cracks, it cuts the thing. So if you go to the store, to the framing shop, an 11 by 14 sheet of plastic, I had a quote of $90 some. I can go to Home Depot and get a sheet that is 3 by 4 feet and the tool to cut it for about $30.
Right. Yeah.
And so you do five frames for $30, and it's really easy to cut. It works on the principle that you have a straight edge and a very dull X-Acto knife, and you keep scratching the plastic until you've scratched it down 50%, and then you just stamp it.
Perfect.
So it's really easy. I recommend everybody that puts things in frames replace the glass with that.
Glass, yeah, again, that is so scary to me to think you move it or something happens, the glass ends up cutting, or like even if the glass breaks and it's not into shards, even that little glass dust and things like that could easily scrape the cell or maybe even scrape some of the lines off the front. You don't want that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow. I've learned a lot here. I'll tell you what, we've been talking for about an hour and it goes by so fast. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to bring up?
Well, I think the only thing I was going to do is show you some old Disney if there's some old Disney you wanted, I thought I'd put something.
Absolutely. Yes, please.
You want to see one of my very favorite pieces?
Yes.
You might not see again. Let me go get it.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Oh, that is cool.
Oh, I'm going to show you this. You asked me about this. You said, do I collect other things that aren't animation cells? So I thought this was sort of cute. Recognize who it is?
It looks familiar, but I couldn't.
Jonathan Winters.
Of course, Jonathan Winters. I can see that.
This was given to Jonathan Winters for his birthday.
Oh, that was given to him?
Huh?
That was given to him?
Yeah.
I made a mistake once. They did an estate sale, I think, for Gary Owens, the big voice guy, and I didn't buy anything, and I regret not buying anything from that sale.
Yeah.
Man.
Every once in a while, I have something from Jimmy Stewart. That's one item. And then I have my third item that I have is a bunch of TV guide covers of the famous comedians. And then next to those are the signatures of each of those. So Lucille Ball.
That's cool.
So I have that. So, but let me get the one I know you'll like.
Yes, please. Oh, anticipation is here. Whew. My son got me this Taco Bell shirt, by the way. He knows I like it.
Well, I know what to get you now, too. I'll get you a Del Taco.
Okay.
Okay. So you might, let's see. Let's bring this up.
Oh, look at that scene. My goodness. Iconic scene.
Yeah.
That's used in promotional everything for
exactly.
And so, wow, that is highly sought after.
Yeah, let's see, I'm tilting it the wrong way. So the thing that got me on this thing was the it really surprised me that that this does not look like Bambi when you watch the film and see that scene. He looks different. He has the number of dots he has is different. So I thought, well, what's going on? And in researching it, I found out that this was the advertising for Bambi before they even made the cartoon.
Wow, that's cool.
The reason I'm going to stand up to be a little easier to point out, tell me if I'm off frame. So something, again, a lot of times it's seeing something that can help you further identify something. Something is seriously wrong there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've watched it, you might remember that Thumper was a different color than the other rabbits.
Okay.
And what happened was that when they were making the cartoon, the animation people decided that they had to make him look different so they could identify which rabbit was which.
Gotcha.
But the art department doing the promoting wasn't. So what that tells me is this had to be done before that. So that's how I know that it was before the film was made, as opposed to, well, maybe they made this 2 years after, the cartoon. Well, I know it's not because of that. But this is not only original cell, but probably a preliminary background. And of course, has his signature.
Whose signature is that?
Oh.
Let's see.
Oh, am I getting there where you can see it?
Yeah, I can see it now. What name is that?
Walt Disney.
That's actually Walt's?
Yeah.
My goodness.
It is cursive. I love it because it's the flowing.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Wait, hold on. So how did Walt end up signing that? So was this framed from the studio? What's the story of the Walt signature?
Yeah, I changed the frame.
Yeah.
But I don't know the history of it, but the history when I bought it was sort of interesting. It was surrounded by a goofy plastic mat that was painted like trees to match this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they left a giant circle around the signature so you could see the signature. So I bought it sight unseen as far as what was under the mat. And the concern was that most of these mats after 80 years, have discoloration or spill marks and stuff. And you can see because it was covered, zip. It's as if he did it yesterday.
Yeah, it's perfect. To me, I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen Walt's signature.
Really it's not personalized. So as far as I'm concerned, I look at it and think of it. He did it for me. He didn't do it to Betty. Best wishes, Betty. I never liked those.
Maybe I'm only used to seeing Walt's signature on the opening credit scenes, and I've never seen his signature outside of that. That's amazing. Yeah. That is so cool. What a great piece.
Does that help? Can you see that pretty good?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow, that is so cool. Yeah, well, that's a great piece. That's the never sell piece.
Exactly.
All others would go before that one. Yeah.
Well, that's luckily SpongeBob has given me that opportunity. Normally, if I had not gotten SpongeBob, I'd be peeling these things off the wall right now and sending them to an auction house. Wow. But with so much SpongeBob, that gives me the opportunity to keep the ones I really love. I have SpongeBob. I'll sort of finish with this. My favorite piece on SpongeBob. Imagine you had 5,000 pieces in front of you, and someone said, "What's the best?" It's sort of an interesting thing that I got to decide. So on SpongeBob, I saved all the drawings of him receiving his fry hat from the first episode. So not getting the hat, the crab hand coming over, one of a kind, with all the and you'll love this, all the matching drawings and the matching storyboard. So it's a set of 15 pieces.
Oh, wow.
Just waiting till someone sends me a real nice Superman comic type of offer.
Perfect. That is so cool. Well, I'm happy that the SpongeBob stuff worked out. I feel like I might have missed the boat on the really cool stuff because,
No, really,
studios just don't have that.
yeah, as recently as when was it? I think it was March. Was able to go on eBay, and I bought three pieces from uh, Fantasia that are worth probably altogether maybe $15,000, and I bought
Hmm.
it for 3,500 on eBay,
Wow.
and that's recent. Okay, so it's still possible to do that sort of stuff, but you can't just once a week go look at eBay or the. Um, I'll give you a secret everyone wants. Subscribe to Barnaby's.
Hmm.
Barnaby's auctions, and what they do is they take the time to figure out every dumb auction in every dumb state and create a list for you and shows you they'll list what's being sold, and you can go, oh, there's a link, you go to it, you find out it's so and so's auction, and if it's somewhere really small, you really have a good chance because those guys are out there to buy furniture, and
Yeah.
you're out there to buy the animation cells. And the people that sell old homes, they clear the homes, they don't know about the art. They
Yeah.
send it off to these auction houses, and
Yep.
here's our turkey baster, and now we got a what is it?
Half drinking soda. Yeah.
Riding a boat. Okay, I see a dollar.
Well,
So
this has been great. I've really enjoyed the conversation and I loved learning more about it. Thank you so much for doing this. And it goes by
you're
so
more
fast.
than welcome. Oh, I guess I mention my business, or will you mention
Please
my business?
do. Please put it in there. Yes.
Okay.
Where can they go?
So please come check my site. It's animationartemporium.com. And if you want to see a lot of the things that I have at home, at the beginning has a slideshow. Rather than click on SpongeBob art, just let the slideshow go, and you'll see a whole bunch of art that you didn't see today. And those are a lot of the things that I have on that wall over there that you wanted to know what my very best stuff. So I
These are.
have Judy Crickets and
Oh,
Cinderellas and
wow.
Bambis and Cinderellas and all sorts of neat things over there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. You have high quality scans and everything. They look beautiful on the website.
So what have you learned today? That you should be collecting more, or you just got to convince your wife that it's a good thing? And
No, this will be good. I've had to write some notes down. So next time, when confronted by wife, say these
yes,
things. So I start.
it's great what you're doing.
Big thank you to Frank Svoboda and his website. If you wanted that again, Animation Art Emporium, Animation Art Emporium. Any other interviews that you may want to watch on this channel, or there's interesting collectors or animators out there that you think we should connect with, drop me a message. I would love to check into that. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified of future interviews. I enjoy doing these just for fun. So that's why I do it. My wife's sick of me talking about it to her. So this actually helps her. So a subscribe to this channel is not just for you, but it's also for my wife. If you feel bad for her for being married to me, that might be a good opportunity for you to contribute back. All right, we'll see you guys later.